Have you ever felt that awkward silence where everyone stops talking and you feel like you're being swallowed by a social black hole? You know that feeling when your brain suddenly blue screens in the middle of a conversation. It's like you suddenly forget how to be human. Look, I used to be the worst at this, like catastrophically bad. I was that guy who would break into a cold sweat when I had to interact with more than two people at once. My idea of socializing was standing in the corner checking my phone and pretending I was responding to super important messages. Spoiler, I was just scrolling through my feed and playing Candy Crush. I had like 3 friends, and 2 of them were obligated to put up with me because we were related. Yeah, I know. Pretty embarrassing, right? One time, at a company party, I got so uncomfortable with the silence that I started talking about how my fish had died that morning. 10 minutes. Talking about a dead fish? Who does that? Me, apparently. But then something changed. And no, it wasn't some miraculous 12-step course for introverts or some motivational coach yelling that I needed to break out of my comfort zone. The first big step was when I realized I was looking at silence completely wrong. I was treating any pause in conversation like it was a social emergency that needed to be fixed immediately. Imagine this. You're driving and you stop at a red light. Do you panic and try to cross anyway? No, right? You wait, breathe, look around. Silences are exactly like red lights in conversations. They're not failures, they're necessary pauses. Personally, I found that silence is like cake batter baking. It seems like nothing is happening, but actually it's when the most important things are developing. What does that even mean? It means that in these moments, people are processing, thinking, feeling. Remember Mark, my coworker? One day we were having lunch and fell into a silence that lasted almost a minute. Instead of panicking and talking about another dead pet, I just breathed and waited. And you know what happened? He started telling me about how he was going through a difficult divorce, something he never would have shared if I had filled that space with small talk. So, what exactly did I do? The second big step was learning to be truly present, not just physically, but mentally. Trying to fill silences usually comes from being too busy thinking about what we're going to say next, instead of really listening. It's like trying to read a book while writing another one at the same time. It was bad, right? I discovered that awkward silences are usually only awkward when we're disconnected. When you're genuinely interested in the person and the moment, silences become comfortable. It's like climbing Mount Everest for an ant with one leg. It seems impossible until you realize the ant doesn't need to reach the top to enjoy the journey. Did you guess what it is? The journey is the real connection, not the perfect conversation without pauses. I started practicing this with my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Clara. Before, I would get nervous with the long silences while we had tea. But when I began to really observe her, notice the little expressions, enjoy the shared quietness, something magical happened. Here's the big revelation that changed everything for me. Silences aren't empty. They're full of possibilities. One day, during a walk with a friend, we were silent for almost 10 minutes. In the past, I would have broken that silence with some random comment about the weather or a lame joke. But this time, I just existed in that moment. When we finally spoke again, the conversation that emerged was one of the most meaningful of my life, as if the silence had been a portal to a deeper level of connection. I went ham on that realization. It was like discovering a superpower I always had but never knew how to use. Now let me tell you, this isn't a magic formula. Sometimes no matter what I do, this will never work, especially if the other person is also uncomfortable with silences. But what worked for me was breathing through silences instead of panicking. Really observing the person in front of me, asking myself, does this silence really need to be filled? And honestly, the most meaningful connections in my life started in moments when I had the courage to be silent. So, have you ever transformed an awkward silence into something meaningful? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video and want more tips on how to turn social discomfort into opportunities for connection, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. See you in the next video.